Here we go.
Coming to you straight from the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina. Welcome to the first ever episode of Geeks with Wives presents The Collection Agency, the flagship collecting podcast for geekswithwives.com. If you're a listener of Geeks with Wives, you may recognize my voice as Brad Bell from the Geeks with Wives and Capes podcast. Joining me today for this podcast from here on out is a very special friend, a very special person in the collecting industry, the one, the only.
Hey guys, this is Barbecue17, also known as Jerry Reed. I'm of actionfigurebarbecue.com, and so I'm used to be with Brad on one of his former endeavors, and so we're excited to be back together talking just about collecting, action figure collecting, the toy industry, and all things related to that.
I think Jerry laid that out quite nicely. This is a show focused on different types of collectibles, but naturally it's going to go toward the things that Jerry and I collect. For me, that will be some of the Sideshow stuff, some of the screen printed Mondo posters, some of the hot toys that I have talked about a couple of times on the site. And for Jerry, I think it's a little bit of everything, Jerry, right?
Yeah, I collect a lot of things. I collect Masters of the Universe Classics, is like kind of one of my hot lines right now, and has been for years now. I collect anything Batman related in the 6 to 7 inch scale, and anything Batgirl related at all. Literally anything I can find that's Batgirl related. I collect lots of little plastic like minifigures like Muscle and OMFG and Suckles and Mystical Warriors of the Ring. I collect Imaginext figures. I collect reaction figures. Some of the retro based toy lines. I'm always dabbling in Star Wars Black, Marvel Legends.
But our goal is, based on the variety of things that Jerry collects and kind of the eclectic style of collecting.
A potpourri of collecting.
Yeah, that I do. We're going to have a potpourri of collecting. So whether you're a avid collector who goes on the BigBadToyStore.com and SideshowToy.com and pre-orders things, or you're just somebody who strolls through the Walmart or Toys R Us aisles to pick up a Marvel Legends or a Star Wars Black, hopefully we'll have topics and discussion that will relate to you. So Jerry, I'm just going to start us out with a general conversation.
Yeah.
Why do you collect?
Yeah, why do I collect? It's a question. A lot of people come over to my house, and they'll walk through, my living room, and we've got a couple shelves in there. I've got a shelf of a bunch of Daleks from Doctor Who. Got a lot of the NECA, Predators and, Aliens figures and Rocky figures. A lot of those 80s icons. We have some Nightmare Before Christmas stuff. We have some of the old Hasbro Mighty Mugs and Funko Pops. And people will see, there's a good number, 30, 40 figures probably in my living room. And people will say, wow, you have a huge collection. And then I'll take them to my study. And we're podcasting from my study right now. And it's where my Batgirl collection's at. The newest stuff that I buy is in here. Currently, my reaction figures are in here. My Star Wars Black. Some of my WWE figures and Kota Bakaya stuff. And people are like, wow, that's crazy. And then I take them down to my hobby room. And imagine in some way, kind of like I guess we're talking like a convergence style event. Imagine like a Toys R Us from like every 2 years of human history simultaneously combined and then exploded onto shelves. That's kind of what my hobby room's like.
Yeah, going into Jerry's hobby room for the first time was kind of the first the same type of reaction I had to when I went to a major convention for the first time, just in awe of the collectibles and whatnot.
People have wept tears of joy, and people have been breathless and speechless when they've seen the collection.
And Jerry's wife wept a lot when she saw the credit card bill as well.
Yeah, no, we don't use credit cards. Just pay for it.
You got the Batman credit card,
yeah,
Jerry.
It
Don't
doesn't expire.
Yeah.
So one of the things, though, jumping on, when people see stuff, people ask, well, oh my gosh, this must be worth a lot of money and all kinds of things. And I mean, I'm sure it is, but I collect because I genuinely like to collect. For me, that's the way I like to experience the stories I enjoy or the characters I see in a movie or read about, has just always been through, collecting and kind of interacting with toys. And I don't sit on the floor anymore and play with them unless I'm playing with something with my daughter too much, but I'm a kind of person, like, if I'm getting ready to watch TV, my wife and I or something, I'll probably grab an action figure and sit there and fiddle around with it during watching TV and
get the pose just right. Jerry's a very good poser with his figures, much better than I.
Are you trying to say I'm a poser? No, I'm
only
in
the best of ways.
Okay,
Jerry.
I'm a real collector. So I just enjoy it. For me, it's been a fun hobby. It's a way to experience. Just experience the things that I enjoy collecting, the characters, the storylines. I choose to do that through, little plastic people, and it's a lot of fun. It's my hobby, and it's one of my probably my largest hobby. It's absolutely my largest hobby.
And for me, I kind of take a different approach to it. I used to collect a little bit of everything, not near to the level that Jerry has. And I kind of focused, as I got older, I focused my collection, kind of trimmed it down, and decided I wanted to go for more upscale things. So instead of picking, not that Jerry doesn't have those, because he definitely does have a lot of statues and whatnot. But instead of spending my money $20 at a time, in the aisles of Walmart or Toys R Us with Marvel Legends or something like that. Not that those aren't great products if you collect those, but I would rather kind of save my money and get those big pieces from Sideshow, from Hot Toys, and kind of focus my collecting in that way. But for me, I think the reason that I do it is to kind of be reminded of that sense of awe and joy that I feel from those interpretations of those characters, that I felt maybe walking out of that movie theater or reading that certain comic, to see those characters in my collection room kind of every day kind of brings those emotions back, and it's something that I really enjoy having.
And you mostly collect, at this point, Star Wars, Marvel, and Batman.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm not really Star Wars so much. I have two premium formats, Anakin Skywalker and the Darth Vader Mythos. But we'll see what happens when Episode 7, when The Force Awakens comes out, if I go down that Hot Toys road. But mainly it's been Batman and Marvel Studios Hot Toys focused. And for me, a big thing is the posters. The Mondo posters, the art that you get from Tyler Stout, Ole Moss, people like that. And a gentleman that I met this past weekend at Heroes Con that I'm going to talk about here in a second. So basically, we're going to start this podcast out every month, so it's going to be a monthly podcast, not a weekly podcast, with what we've been checking out. This will be the section where we talk about what collectibles we picked up in the past month and our kind of initial impressions of those collectibles.
Check checklist? Check. Double check checking of checklist? Check.
So, Jerry, what have you been checking out in the collector's world this week?
So, just this week?
Nah, this month, this past month, week.
So, one of the things I declared I was going to do, I guess my New Year's resolution was I was going to review everything that I got. Like, every toy, every action figure that I buy, I review it.
For his website, actionfigurebarbecue.com.
Yep. And so I've been doing that this year. So if you're really interested in seeing the things that I've picked up, you can always check out my list. I review everything in order that I buy it in as well, which is really weird. But I do that. So One thing that's kind of funny that I got into was wrestling figures. That's been a new thing for me. I've never been into wrestling.
But with the WWE Network with $9.99, which one of our good friends kind of got us into getting, he suckered you into that.
I don't have the network. I just go to his house to watch the pay-per-views and watch the matches on Hulu. But I originally I picked up the Wyatt family figures because they seem pretty cool. I was really impressed with the quality of them. So I picked up quite a few new ones this month. Picked up Paige, the new Randy Orton that came out. And these are the elite version. They have the basic ones that, the legs don't have the kind of the swivel hinge, faux ball joint movement. So I picked up a few of those. I picked up, there's a newer Hulk Hogan that's in, has like removable shirts and stuff. That's pretty cool from the Elite collection, not the Defining Moments. I've picked up a few of the Arkham Knight figures so far. They're really...
Scarecrow, didn't you?
I just got Scarecrow. I haven't reviewed him yet, but I got him for Father's Day. But I was really, really impressed with the Harley Quinn figure. I mean, so many accessories. She has one of the Jack-in-the-Boxes, which... If you play the game, one of the downloadable content scenarios is you get to play as her in Bloodhaven, trying to free Poison Ivy, and she leaves these exploding Jack-in-the-Boxes. I mean, she's got so many great accessories. She's a really nice figure. The GameStop did an exclusive Red Hood, the Jason Todd version of Red Hood, which is a really cool figure as well. Red Hood was one of those characters that, up until... maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, there was no Red Hood figures released at all.
Ever, or just sparsely?
No Jason Todds. Eventually, no Jason Todd Red Hood. Eventually, about at the same time, Mattel released one in a costume he did not wear often. It was a very superhero-ish costume. He wore it for like 1 or 2 issues. They released it in their DC Signature series. And then DC Collectibles released one that tied into Red Hood and the Outlaws. It's part of their New 52 line. And now we've got the Arkham Asylum one. So I've been reviewing quite a few of those. And the other thing was really weird is, how familiar are you with Imaginext? Do you know what that is even?
That's the kids line, right?
Yeah,
it's kind of almost like Fisher-Price type.
They are Fisher-Price. So they're run by Mattel. And I sort of got interested in Imaginext a few years ago because they did DC Super Friends. So they had a lot of Batman characters. They were cool. I picked 1 or 2 up.
Full disclosure, Jerry Reed is a DC fanboy.
I am a DC fan, yeah. So I picked those up, and one of the weird things with the Imaginext figures, though, is because, Fisher-Price is owned by Mattel, sometimes the Imaginext figures will have, random things that are Masters of the Universe references.
Full disclosure, Jerry is the biggest Masters of the Universe fan I've ever met personally.
That you've ever met personally.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. The bottom of, there's one called the Wizard's Tower, and the bottom is the the Dwell of Souls, the trap door from the original Castle Grayskull is sculpted on the bottom. There's a lot of cool things there, so I got into them. They've been doing these little blind bagged figures, kind of like the little Lego blind bag guys or Playmobil's mystery figures. I mean, blind bag stuff is all the rage right now. And this doesn't happen anymore. This is so rare these days. But the Series 4 of those blind bag figures was released just a few months ago. We knew they were coming. Out of the blue, on some website, somebody starts posting that they walked into a Walmart and found Series 5. We hadn't heard about them. We did not know that they were coming at all.
See, that's the best feeling, though, walking into a retail store and not expecting to see that.
And it just doesn't happen much anymore, but I think Imaginext is really still between being a kid's line with a collector base on it, but it's been a really strong series, so I've picked up those Imaginext figures, and I'm digging them. I'm working my way through them. They have this one, I thought I brought him in here, but I guess I didn't. It's a ghost, but it's like a translucent green skeleton figure, and then he has a sheet that goes over him, like a piece of armor that's looks like a sheet, and he glows in the dark. He's translucent, he's a skeleton, he's a ghost, and he glows in the dark. It's everything that I like rolled into one. If he tasted like lime popsicles, I would be the happiest person in the world.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Just going into that thrill of going into a store, though, because I think the last time I had that as a collector, and this is when I was collecting Marvel Legends when the first Avengers movie came out, was we walked in one night to our local Walmart here, not too far outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. And there were all the Marvel Legends Avengers figures.
Yeah, I don't remember hearing much about those were kind of snuck up on us, too.
The Hulk and Hawkeye, which ended up being really hard to get. That Hawkeye, which was a great sculpt, goes for like $90 now or so.
Yeah.
Right there.
I have my Hulk from that, because I traded you something for that Hulk. I traded you my Captain America, Nick Fury, and then you sold it.
Yeah, I sold all my Marvel Legends to help.
I would
pay
have bought
for
that Captain
house.
I would have bought that Nick Fury.
But is that it for you, Jerry? As far as checking out, I mean, he's constantly.
Isn't that enough?
Out. No, that's enough. That's enough. So mine won't be quite as impressive, but. I forgot my very first DC Collectibles statue as I look in Jerry's studies lined with them, but it was the Arrow TV show on the CW, the Stephen Amell unhooded version of that costume, of that incarnation. Now, the hooded version came out probably about a year ago, maybe toward the beginning of Season 2, and it ended up being a statue, 12-inch statue, so 1/6 scale statue that is now going for like $400 or $500 on eBay, the hooded version. So now they're doing the unhooded version, and I was lucky enough to pick that up. Jerry, I don't know if you're a fan. I know your wife is a fan of Arrow. I don't know if you are, but...
I've seen a couple episodes. I have a hard time keeping up with TV shows. Is this it? I'm looking at it.
He's pulling it up on Big Bad Toy Store. And I was kind of iffy on that sculpt when I looked at it online, and it ended up being a lot better in person.
Yeah, you're probably looking at a prototype sculpt here, in all honesty. But it looks cool. The pose is odd, but I think it's the angle I'm looking at it at.
Yeah, it's a lot better in person, and the paint's really good. A
lot of those kind of things are.
From the neck down, it's a great figure. Not that the sculpt's like really bad, but as far as the detail on the paint and with the arrows and with the bow and with the costuming, it looks phenomenal. The only part it loses me is around the eye, nose, and kind of mouth area. It's off, but you got to kind of temper your expectations, because as nice as DC Collectibles is, it's not Sideshow, right?
Well, and the price range is, $100, and I don't see DC Collectibles, they don't often do portraits of real, of actors or actresses. They typically are doing
comic-based stuff.
Comic-based that are really stylized.
So this is kind of new for them, and I know they're doing this for The Flash, for the Jim Gordon on the new Gotham TV show, and for Constantine, which unfortunately that show got canceled. But The Flash looks really good. It looks a lot better than this version. And basically the first incarnation of this figure, the hooded version, you really couldn't tell as much that the face was a bit off because of the hood. I wish I would have picked that one up, but I didn't at the time. And when you're talking about some of these things, if you don't strike when the iron's hot, you're going to be left out in the cold on a scalper's market. That's
a really tough thing with modern collecting, is things either go so quickly or they just kind of sit. And it's really tough to tell sometimes, what's going to be that thing that disappears in an instant and what you're going to be able to get at a, reasonable or a clearance price a couple months from now. A perfect example of that is,
used to, when Hot Toys wasn't doing mini figures, everything would fly off the shelf and instantaneously become $350 on the aftermarket. Yeah. Now they're doing a lot more incarnation, second, fourth, with Thor, maybe 6th or 7th versions of characters, so things aren't flying off.
Yeah.
So I've kind of been slow to pull the trigger because I've been able to get some stuff cheaper than I would have in the past. But something like Guardians of the Galaxy, the Star-Lord action figure, it was in stock for about 7 or 8 months, pretty steady on every website. Then a few websites, this is after Guardians came out. Yeah. And then a few websites started to sell out, but you still had like Sideshow and Big Bad Toy Store have them. And it's selling for $225. Chris Pratt does Jurassic World. And I kid you not, every one of these Star-Lord figures either sells out on every website, whether it's Big Bad, Entertainment Earth, SideshowToy.com, or in the case of Big Bad, they shoot the price up to about $280.
Yeah.
So now, I mean, Chris Pratt is considered this worldwide movie star, and that's the only real upscale figure of the guy.
Yeah.
It makes you kind of wish you would have picked it up, which I didn't really want to pick that one up, but I know there were people who were waiting on that. That always happens.
I was tempted. I only own one hot toy. I own Alice from Resident Evil, one of the movies. But I was really tempted on the Star-Lord since I've done Star-Lord cosplay a couple times now.
This should be one of our topics one day, though, to pre-order or not to pre-order, like when to do it. But if it's something you absolutely want, go ahead and pre-order it, because don't take that risk.
Yeah, I pretty much always pre-order unless it's something that is going to be a mass market release.
And there's so many sites out there that allow you, like BigBadToyStore.com, to pre-order without putting any money down and cancel with ease, or Sideshow, which allows you to pay in installments. I know it's crazy you say installment paying for a collectible, but hey, some of this stuff is $600, $500, $400, or all the way up to the $1,000 range when you're talking about some of their legendary scale stuff.
Yes.
But I would probably rate this about a 7 out of 10 or so, because the face sculpt's not completely off, just a little off, but everything else, for $100, $99.99 is what I paid for. I was really pleased, and I'm looking forward to picking up more DC Collectibles statues in the future, because you can pick up 2 of those for what you can, or hell, 3 or 4 of those for one Sideshow statue.
And DC Collectibles does have a nice range of prices. Like, they do have the smaller Batman black and whites are, $60 to $70 going price, where their 13-inch stuff is more $190 to $120 range.
And when it goes for the comic book incarnations, their stuff's dead on most of the time. It can be off sometimes.
Yeah. I have to say, who I'm really a big fan of in statues, though, is I really like Kodabakaya. They're
plastic, right?
They are. They're a really solid plastic, though. They're like a mixture of different types of plastic. But, I mean, they just, I've got some of the DC up there. And, I mean, I just think they look better than most other statues. I mean,
and you can't really tell they're plastic unless you're picking them up.
And they're durable. Like, if you accidentally dropped one, which, I mean...
Don't even say that, Jerry.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're, realistically moving something, too, or putting them on a shelf, you can put more of them up there. And Kodabakaya stuff is beautiful. Their paint work is always just really exceptional.
What's the price range on that kind of 12-inch scale for those?
Those are about 8 or 9-inch scale. They're about $60, $70.
Okay.
But those are ones like their Bashaljo line, which are their kind of their more female line. Some of those have gone up $300 and $400.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not
after
know
they
that.
disappear. So.
Well, I've been checking out one other thing. I was lucky enough to meet screen printed poster artist, gig poster artist named Alex Laccarino. Alex Laccarino at Heroes Con 2015 here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
The Queen City.
Yeah, which is our local con. We've been going to it for about... This is my 11th year going. It was cool to get a press pass from GeeksWithWives.com this year. And I got to talk to a lot of artists and creators, with Alex being one of those. And he has done screen printed posters for Hero Complex Gallery. He's done them for Gallery 1988, Bottleneck Gallery. This is basically like, if Mondo is the NFL, those are basically big time college football programs, right? Like, he's right on the precipice to being one of those elite Mondo artists. So to sit there with him and talk about his submissions to Mondo, and he had his tablet and he was showing me a X-Men Days of Future Past poster design that looked better than anything Mondo's done in a while. And if you want to check out Alex's work, you can go to thatkidwhodraws.com. Thatkidwhodraws.com. And he had a couple posters there, and one of which was a Walking Dead poster that he did for season 3, which was up there with anything Mondo would have done. But the one I picked up was his Age of Ultron print, and it had Ultron featured, but behind Ultron it had the twins. It had Scarlet Witch, Elizabeth Olsen, and it had Quicksilver, the actor who has basically had the personality of a block of wood, Aaron Johnston in Godzilla, but we love this kick-ass. I really enjoyed Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch in Age of Ultron, two of my favorite things.
He was boring in Godzilla.
He was really bad. Yeah. This isn't a movie podcast, Jerry. All right,
that seems boring in that movie.
But I've always been a big Scarlet Witch fan, going back to House of M, and I've always wanted something to represent that fandom. And there's been Marvel Legends and stuff like that. But I picked up this poster kind of to do that, kind of to represent my love for the Scarlet Witch. And then lo and behold, there's a pre-order for the Scarlet Witch hot toy that pops up.
It's really nice.
Which looks really nice, which I may be picking up. And Alex was just a very nice guy. He was talking about how when talking with Mondo, I found it interesting that they had told him, man, we like what you've done, but he had like a Cowboy Bebop poster too. He's like, but we would have probably asked you to do a Cowboy Bebop poster, and you've already done it. So all the stuff we would have asked you to do, you've already done. And I kind of think that was a cop-out on Mondo's part, because not that Mondo doesn't have high quality with their prints right now, because the one they did for Mad Max Fury Road was pretty good, but some of their artists that were associated with them, such as Ole Moss and Tyler Stout, have quit putting out a lot of work. So they focused their brand on figures and on vinyls and things like that, and it's kind of alienated a lot of hardcore poster collectors like myself. So the thing that they would not give Alex a shot was kind of disheartening. So hopefully that'll happen. And not that some of the toys they had been doing are not cool. They did a cool Hellboy one here recently. They're charging $200, and I don't know the quality of their work yet on toys. You know, Jerry?
Yeah.
It's hard to ask that out of the gate, where I know if I go to Sideshow, the quality I'm going to get.
Yeah, no,
right?
You're right. Like a lot of these, smaller companies who are still building up their, their name and stuff that do 1/6 scales. And I'm thinking, like Star Ace, I think Asmus and stuff like that. Michael Crawford reviews a lot on MWCtoys.com, which is where I typically read about 1/6 scale, because I don't really collect that scale at all. But, they start low. You have to kind of build up and get a reputation so that you don't fear that you're buying, junk. And they really have come out of there. And from the circles I have run in, I haven't seen anybody who has really taken them up on, what they're offering.
Mondo?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't either. Mondo, whether it's their vinyls or their posters, sell out within a day. Anything they put in their online store at mondotees.com. But that Hellboy figure has sat there for a couple months. So has their Ninja Turtles figure. And I think it's cool they're branching out as a brand. But don't forget who got you to the dance. So that's just my advice to them.
When you said meeting somebody, this is just a funny story, meeting somebody at HeroCon. So I really didn't talk to anybody much this year, artists and stuff. We were really busy with lots of cosplay photos and doing cosplay and looking at, toys and stuff. But we're walking a corner, and so we have, my wife and I are there, and we have our 22-month-old daughter with us. And we see the artist who drew this book that she carries around all the time now. It's this little kid's paperback book called Superman Attack of the Toyman. And the art's by Andy Smith, who's done, he's done other, he's done comic art as well, but he does a lot of the kids' books. And we walked around the corner and we're like, oh my gosh, we have that book she carries around all the time. And so we were able to talk with this guy for a couple minutes about, his art that he did for a kid's book that, like, my little daughter loves now. So we bought one of his Batman books and had him autograph it. So my 22-month-old has her first autographed book of a creator she met.
And that's such a cool story to go along with HeroCon, because it's a convention where you can go up and meet major creators. People like Tim Sale with a minimal line, and also get to interact with them.
2 years ago, Earl Norem was there. Earl Norem was a pretty prominent artist. He did lots of Masters of the Universe art. He did lots of Conan the Barbarian art, lots of fantasy and sci-fi art and stuff. Just a brilliant painter. I had a chance to have him sign some of my childhood books, which was really special, and talking with him. And, he was a World War II veteran, so talking with about, some of his experiences, there. So it's really sad the day after HeroCon to learn that he actually passed away the Friday that HeroCon happened this year.
Wow.
So, and I've been 2 years. I mean, he was 93. He was an older gentleman, but it's really interesting going 2 years ago, having my childhood book signed, and then going with my 22-month-old and, her getting one of her books signed as well at HeroCon by an artist. So.
And now the interesting thing is she going to take to the Batman book as much as she did the Superman book, or is she going to start to write in the Superman book, Do You Bleed? That will be interesting to see what direction she goes, because Jerry is a Batman guy.
Oh, yeah. She likes Batman, though. She recognizes Batman. She calls Batman na-na-na, because...
No,
Batman. Yeah, because my wife always sang that to her when she was little. She's still very little. But,
That's such a personal touch. My parents just turned on the TV. I just had to listen to the reruns of the 66 show.
Pow!
But I think that's about going to wrap it up for what we've been checking out. Go to thatkidwhodraws.com and check out some of Alex's phenomenal artwork. So let's go ahead and get into our news segment this month, Jerry.
We had to take a quick break, and I was sitting there playing with a Randy Orton figure, and I dropped it. I couldn't find where I put it, and I was afraid he was going to RKO us out of nowhere while we were podcasting. But I found it. So.
And if you've never seen the YouTube Randy Orton RKO videos...
RKO! Randy Orton versus the Hulk is pretty awesome.
Do yourself a favor and look that up as soon as you finish listening to this podcast. But Jerry, San Diego Comic-Con is up on us, and that will be our main topic next episode. But we're already starting to see a lot of teases, a lot of previews for San Diego Comic-Con. Whether it's a small company, whether it's a big company... As Stone Cold Steve Austin just joined us. No, joking. They're out there. We're starting to see our first glimpses. To me...
Ton of exclusives this year. I don't know if you saw Funko, but Funko has done 6 or 7 waves of exclusives so far.
It was too much for me to keep up with.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy.
Between their Pops and Vinyl Sugar and Reaction and every other thing that Funko does... I swear I'm not joking. They have to have 60 or 70 exclusives this year.
And Jerry, for me, this is the big time for toy reveals, because Toy Fair tends to focus on retailer-based stuff. So some of your more 6-inch stuff, some of the stuff you're going to see at your Walmarts, your Kmarts, your Targets, your Toys R Us. But here we see a lot of the big companies like DC Collectibles, Sideshow, whatnot, show us some of those products we've only seen on an internet screen in person for the first time. So one of those things Sideshow revealed was a $479 Wolverine Premium Format Figure. And if you're not familiar with premium format figures, they're 1/4 scale. They're massive, and they're expensive. Now, the reason this is a big deal is because it's been about 8 years since they've done a Wolverine Premium Format. The first one is the traditional black and yellow costume, and it is now selling. I think it originally sold back then for around $300-something, and now it goes for $2,000, Jerry. And this one here is not the traditional black and yellow spandex, but kind of the brown and yellow suit.
It's even older than the black and yellow. Yeah, kind of the...
I think this is what he wore in Japan. When Chris Claremont wrote that Japan storyline, that famous one that they kind of touched on in the last Wolverine.
I always think of this Wolverine because when Toy Biz first released the X-Men action figures, this was the Wolverine they released originally.
Toy Biz. Those were the good old
It wasn't until the second wave that they did the black and yellow with the blue, kind of the Jim Lee update. So
yeah, which, I mean...
This is the Uncanny X-Men version as well. This is how he appeared in the Uncanny X-Men as well. When they first released Uncanny X-Men.
Was it? I didn't think it was. I thought he had the
Giant Size X-Men.
The Giant Size X-Men I know was the yellow and blue costume.
Really?
That famous cover where they're all jumping out of the page. It looks like the whole group. I could be wrong. Jerry's looking it up now. Giant Size X-Men #1, 1975. For those of you who don't know.
Oh, he is wearing the yellow and blue.
Alright, well it is. Okay. That's one of the most famous covers, and that was kind of the modernization of the X-Men that we kind of know and love today. But this figure is cool. I'm not picking it up at $480. I like Wolverine. I'm not that big of a Wolverine fan. But if you're on the fence with that one, I'm sure it's going to be unbelievable quality. I'm sure it'll be on display at San Diego Comic-Con.
I'm curious how tall it is because, if it's quarter scale, Wolverine's not that tall in the comics. So.
And the rumor is at San Diego there will be a matching Sabretooth to go along with it. So if you're looking to pick up that set with shipping, get ready for $1,000.
It's got a unmasked head as well.
And it's got a swappable arm where you can swap out one of the adamantium claws for a katana.
Oh, okay.
Which looks pretty cool, kind of focusing on that whole Japanese
Forged
storyline.
by Murmasa.
Yeah, so again, not picking this up. Moving through some upscale toys, we have another Hot Toys Thor. This is like the 6th one. I joked on Twitter today that if you have one of the IKEA glass Detolf cases, like a lot of Hot Toys collectors do, you could have one of just Chris Hemsworth Thors, Jerry. Because they've done...
There's probably lots of folks that do have one.
I'm sure they are, because it kind of just dawned up on me how popular that version of Thor is. I think when I was watching Age of Ultron, and he disappeared for half the movie, but a lot of people were there just to see him, and a lot of people got upset that he disappeared. He's a lot of people's favorite part of those movies. He's got a good comedic timing.
Yeah.
Despite being extremely attractive.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of the folks like him.
Alright, let's get into some Mattel stuff. We have the Courtroom, Ghostbusters 2, Egon Spengler. What do you think, Jerry? I saw a look on your face.
I gave up on Mattel's Ghostbusters line, and it was just, once again, Mattel didn't want to put a lot into that line. They reused the same body for pretty much all the Ghostbusters. They're pretty much reusing parts again to make this Egon, and he was left out of that line. They had the Courtroom Peter, Courtroom Ray that came with the Scoleri brothers, but it's nice they're completing it. I'm sure there's some folks, and I love Ghostbusters. Let me throw that out there. Ghostbusters and Raiders of the Lost Ark constantly fight for the role, the title, the belt of my favorite movie. But I just was not impressed with Mattel's offerings. I think I own 2 of the figures. I owned 3 at one point.
But you got a lot of the props, don't you?
Oh, I do have the props. I have all of them except the trap. I missed the trap when Mattel did the trap. But, I mean, it looks okay. It's not bad. It's just, this is definitely feels like it has some cool accessories, but it feels very phoned in.
Yeah, something that should have been done. It feels like fan service a little bit. But some people will be picking it up, I'm sure, just to complete that collection.
Yeah. So, I'm more interested in a couple other Mattel exclusives. Their Masters of the Universe exclusive is Twistoid and Rotar. It's a 2-pack of Masters characters, which are going to be necessary for collectors if you're trying to complete the original vintage line in Masters of the Universe Classics, which we'll be able to do, we've been told we'll be able to do by the end of 2015. So those were 2 guys in the original that were like basically tops. They were tops that didn't have lower legs. They spun around. Well, they come with lower legs now that you can take on and off. That's cool. They also announced today, sir, and I don't know if you noticed this, but one of my contacts contacted me right away and said that for the 1966 Batman series that Mattel also just kind of
I know where you're
squandered, a Toys R Us exclusive is going to be the Yvonne Craig Batgirl.
That was on my list just for you, Jerry.
Yep, in a very nice boxed package. Apparently, the figure is also going to be available later this year at Toys R Us in a 3-pack with Batman and Robin.
Which you probably already have.
If you bought any figures from this line or any of the packs out there, you would already own that figure. The Batmobile, you'd own those figures.
This line has been a mess. That's the only thing I can say, because I was hardcore into this line on our old podcast that you and I used to do. We covered this line. We both geeked out when it was announced at like Toy Fair 2013 or something like that. And it just... It's a failure. I mean, the Batmobile was a hollow piece of plastic, and I'm so glad I didn't drop $60 on that.
So some of the villains were decent. What do you think the best villain was?
The best, I like the Frank Gorshin Riddler.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad figure. I thought the Penguin was really nice. I thought the Burgess Meredith Penguin was actually a really good Penguin figure, and I liked the Surf's Up Batman because it was so goofy.
I liked the Catwoman too. Was it the Newmar one they did?
It was Julie Newmar. Yeah.
I like that one as well.
I have an autographed picture of Julie Newmar over there. You want to see it?
Yeah. I'll take a look at that here.
It says to Barbecue 17, "You're perfect. Love Julie Newmar."
And he can die a happy man now. It doesn't get much better than that. Okay, let's move on through here to some more San Diego stuff. Speaking of some lines that have been kind of up and down, we have Bandai giving us 2 Power Rangers exclusives here. And I really want to get your thought on this, because we've both been fans of the Power Rangers Legacy line, if not from the action figure standpoint, the prop standpoint.
I really liked the Morpher. I bought the Morpher and the Megazord.
Yeah, and they've released Saba already, but they're releasing, much like they did a reverse color kind of Dragon Dagger last year at San Diego Comic-Con for about, I don't know, it's about 100 something bucks, maybe 125 to maybe up to $200. They're releasing a black and gold Saba.
I saw that.
It's an exclusive, so it's going to be worth money because it's going to be rare. Why?
I don't know.
As a Power Rangers fan, I would rather have the normal on-screen Saba than that black and gold. And they're doing the same thing with the Megazord, the original Mighty Morphin Megazord.
I remember that in the in the original Power Rangers line, there was like a black and gold or black and silver Megazord that was
remember that.
Like a collector's edition. So I could see the Megazord as being an homage to that, but yeah, I don't get the point of that kind of recolor for an expensive item and a prop replica. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, same here.
We're not talking like something that's like, hey, we're doing the main version at stores, but this kind of rare version that appeared on the show. And if it appeared on the show, and I've talked about my Power Rangers fandom was like a celebrity relationship, celebrity marriage. It was passionate. It was all over the place, and then it ended very, very quickly.
Yeah, so but there wasn't. I can testify. There was never a black and gold Saba.
There probably was on like an obscure television show that was used. Footage was used for the for the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers that aired in Japan at some point.
So something that you didn't care that much about to something that you really is near and dear to your heart. Rambo, John Rambo.
John J. Rambo.
San Diego Comic-Con, Rambo Force of Freedom NECA exclusive, Jerry.
Yeah.
What do you think about this one? I know you've checked this one out.
NECA has, I bought a lot of NECA stuff this past year, but I got their Rambo, the Rambo, First Blood Part 2 figure for Christmas, and it just amazing. I'm a big Rambo fan. Big Sylvester Stallone fan in general, and I loved Rambo. Go on YouTube or something and look up the intro for the cartoon for Rambo Forces of Freedom. It's like it's like 80s, 80s cartoon, that kind of awesome Reagan era patriotism, kind of like G.I. Joe, except they're like blowing up random villages and stuff. So incredibly awesome. But I collected those toys as a kid. I still have a good number of them that I kept. I liked the Rambo Forces of Freedom line, and it's really cool to see NECA pay homage to that, just like they've done with, Kenner's Predator, or Kenner's, the glow-in-the-dark RoboCop and stuff like that. NECA knows their audience, and it's cool because
it's all nostalgia driven.
Yeah, there's nobody that's going to say, "Oh, I'm going to miss out on a Rambo toy," because it's an exclusive, because they've already released lots of the great, mainstream real Rambos. This one's totally for fans who are willing to track this down, and I find NECA's exclusives are usually pretty easy to get a hold of, and they don't seem to upcharge or, gouge you too much for them. So I imagine I'll end up with it, because I think I have the rest of the Rambos. I don't have the video game Rambo yet, but
maybe Santa will bring it to you next year.
Maybe Santa Claus will bring it to me if I'm good.
Let's see. We have some DC solicits for DC Collectibles. I'm not going to go over every one of these. We have a pack of Alex Ross Justice League figures, which look pretty cool. They're going to be $95 for the set, it looks like. I know Alex Ross, people just collect Alex Ross because he's one of the most iconic,
a gorgeous,
artists.
Recognizable style.
Yeah, you can look at his style and it's Alex Ross. Oftentimes his posters are worth so much money that you can't afford it. It's just fun to look at.
Are these new? Or are these repaints? Or
I believe they.
I'm looking at them, and I'm just not sure.
I think they're new. I think so.
Okay.
They look like here's what they look like. Alex Ross version. I was going to say they look like New 52, but they're not, because Superman has the colors,
though.
here.
The colors are very New 52-ish to me. Things are shinier and stuff, which Alex Ross's stuff doesn't
tend to do.
Have a metallic sheen to it. Now, he uses light a lot and reflection, but these look metallic. So I don't know, because if you remember back in like 2004 or 5, DC back when they were DC Direct, they did They did a series of figures that were based on Justice, and they also did some that were Kingdom Come based. And so like I have quite a few of those. Like I have the Justice Scarecrow, Justice Batgirl. The Batgirl's actually right behind you somewhere.
Yeah,
there it is. It's right there on the shelf. So, anyways, I'm not sure if these are repaints or not. DC does tend to repaint figures and re-release
them. Which is good sometimes, because if you missed
sometimes
out on
it's nice. I saw the Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns set was they've re-released that a year or so ago, and I saw it for a reasonable price at HeroCon. So
we have a lot of these. I know we talked about these before. But we have a lot of these new Batman figures and Batman the Animated Series figures finally hitting, such as New Adventures Poison Ivy, New Adventures Robin, Batman the Animated Series Harley Quinn, that classic Batman that everybody's been waiting for, right, since this line got going. Batman the Animated Series Riddler, the Penguin from Animated Series, New Adventures Batgirl. All those will be hitting. It looks like between October and December is kind of a staggered release.
They bumped it back, but they've also got the Phantasm and Batman 2-pack from the film.
I think those were bumped back to December.
I think to January.
Excuse me, because these are the December solicits.
From everything we've heard, I have a couple of them, but the quality control has really improved. DC Collectibles has made
it's gotten so much better.
They've made a lot of progress in the past couple of years. There's the Killer Croc. That's just.
I think that's the New Adventures Killer Croc
and Roxy
Rocket.
Roxy Rocket,
which is awesome. A figure I never thought they would make.
I know. So many great things there.
And then we have, Jerry, I know you're picking this up. It's the Babs Tarr, Cameron Stewart, Batgirl of Burnside.
Already got it pre-ordered. Yeah.
So it's going to be about
a great costume.
$125. I love this costume. It took a lot of flack. Yeah, but I like it. It's really grown on me.
Yeah. So. It's a really nice, good, modern, distinctive look. I'm loving the new Arkham figures, and they've already shown Catwoman, Gordon, Nightwing has a cool new look in Arkham Knight. I like his new look. And then they, who's the fourth one in the new set? Is it Robin?
Yeah, I believe so. Robin. And Arkham Knight stuff always looks good as long as it stays in one piece. And like you said, their quality control's gotten a lot better.
Yeah. I'll tell you the thing I'm most excited for coming out, though, is the, and we talked about this on we did a Toy Fair podcast, when they showed that 3-pack of the Arkham Origins figures with Lady Shiva, Electrocutioner, and a Dr. Harleen Quinzel figure. That's coming out this November, December. I'm so pumped about that, too.
We have a DC CoverGirl's Catwoman statue coming out. Looks very nice here.
Whose art is that based off of?
Goggles look. It's sculpted by Jake Matthews.
Oh, Stanley Art Germ Lau.
Yeah,
okay. That's who
the
they're
artist.
doing it now. I liked them a little better when they used to be Adam Hughes based. But
oh my god, yeah, nothing beats Adam Hughes designs. I'm sorry.
They had a really nice consistent look, but I guess they covered everybody, so, moving on to new looks.
January, we don't have much for the solicits from DC. We have a CoverGirl's Black Canary, which is by the same artist as Stanley Archam. How do you say it? Lau.
Yeah,
okay. Same thing for the Harley Quinn statue coming out in January. I can't believe we're in 2016. That's when we're finally going to get the Phantasm and the Batman Animated Series 2-pack, which I know a lot of people are looking forward to. And that's really your highlights from DC Collectibles for December 2015 and January 2016. They get these things out there because, like Jerry was saying, if you don't pre-order, you may miss out.
And DC deals with the direct market. They deal with comic stores. They deal more with online retailers where, the traditional Mattel, Hasbro, they don't. They don't really play Bandai, Playmates. They don't really deal with those direct market as much. And so they just send their stuff to retail. It goes through entirely different channels. But DC Collectibles, you know what's coming out. You know kind of how much it's going to be, when to expect it. And I just find that very convenient.
Yeah, I do too. They're good at getting their stuff out there. The rest of the stuff we're going to talk about is Star Wars related, which is going to bring us to our main topic. So the format of this show goes, as you can see, what we've been checking out, news, and we'll close with a discussion within the toy industry, as long as there's not a big event like San Diego Comic-Con or Toy Fair to cover, which will dictate those months. This month, we're going to move to Star Wars and kind of examining the status of the Hasbro figures heading into The Force Awakens. Because we haven't seen much. We know they're coming out in September 4th, I believe. But we haven't seen much other than a Star Wars Black, the New Order Stormtrooper, which looked really cool.
We know there's a Chewbacca coming out because we've seen the box for it.
Yeah.
And then late last year, early this year, there was some prototypes released or leaked.
I just gotta ask you something real quick before we get into the topic. You mentioned Chewbacca, and this is kind of... I teared up when I saw the We're Home Chewie that Jerry has on the cover of his Star Wars Insider magazine right here. But... did Wookiees not get gray? Did they not get gray? I mean, he looks pretty much the same. I just expected him to be green, kind of like an old dog.
I thought he'd be a little more gray too, but then again, I mean, Wookiees have a pretty long lifespan.
Yeah, how long does the average Wookiee live? I mean, I know that's EU knowledge.
I want to say he was supposed to be about 200 in the original movie.
Are you kidding me? Chewbacca 200 years old? I did not know that. I mean, I figured he was 70-something years old. It's weird that the character, most like the dog, has an extended lifespan.
That's why he's so wise.
Above humans. Jerry's looking it up on, no pun intended, Wikipedia here. Wikipedia.
Yeah.
But Star Wars has some exciting things on the horizon.
He was 200 in the original film.
Okay, 200. How old does it say? How old he was when the moon fell on him in the expanded universe?
225.
So he lived to the ripe age of 225. So I mean, this is about 30 years.
That's not even real anymore. Don't listen to this man.
Yeah, that didn't happen now.
It didn't happen.
Yeah, fortunately, Chewbacca's not killed by a moon. I'm glad Chewie's still around.
Oh, me too, man. My little one, she loves Chewbacca.
Who doesn't?
She's a stuffed Chewbacca. It's larger than her, and she does a good Chewbacca impression.
I gotta hear that. I think I would pay to hear that. So, of course, she's your daughter.
She won't perform on cue.
Oh, okay.
You know,
all right.
But she'll carry him around, and so I'm really excited. I know. I mean, she's only going to be a little over a year, or a little over 2 years. She'll be 2 in like 3 months when the movie comes out. So I know we're not going to be seeing Star Wars in a theater with her. I mean, so she'll be.
You'll be there with me.
Oh, I'll be there opening night, but somebody will be watching her. My wife and I will have someone watch her. But I was real excited. Now, she did like the trailer, because when she saw him, she went, she did her Chewbacca impression. So
I would have cried even harder if I would have been here. But I have to say,
it's emotional.
We'll take a little piece of news to kind of lead us into our discussion with Star Wars toys heading into The Force Awakens, because we have two things. We first of all have the Rancor. The Star Wars Black Rancor is going to be at San Diego Comic-Con. Looks pretty cool, and it's a huge set that has Jabba in there, and it has Leia, and it has 3PO, and the
Gamorrean Guard.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that this Jabba is a scaled-down version of the Star Wars Black Series Jabba, that 6-inch scale Jabba.
Yeah, and also we have the news that we're going to have a fan choice Star Wars figure, but the exception being it cannot be a choice character from The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
And I'm confused. I wonder if EU is on the table. Is Mara Jade or somebody like that?
From everything we've seen and all the different sites, Jedi Temple Archives, the Floosh who have been taking, I think Topless Robot has been taking votes as well. It seems like anybody is on the table. We have heard that even characters who were previously excluded from anything, such as the Tonika sisters, which are, have a very...
Cantina.
Yeah, in the Cantinas, they were called the Star Whores for a number of years, that they were always banned from being
a lot of fan fiction written about them, I believe.
Really?
No.
So the weirdest thing is, according to Expanded Universe, that's not even really like the Tonika sisters. It's somebody in disguise as them. There's some weird Expanded Universe stuff. But anyways, so one of the things is, there's a contest out there. Sites are collecting the names. There's going to be a voting poll. Hasbro's done this before in the 1/18th scale line. This has been going on for a while. So I'm seeing a lot of the same candidates up there. The one I'm pushing for the most is Admiral Akbar. He's my favorite. I got to represent. I see a lot of people. Darth Revan is getting a lot of love.
Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, Tusken Raiders. A lot of people, though, are pushing for figures like Luke Skywalker from Episode 4, Leia from Episode 4. And it is weird that we haven't got those figures yet in the Black
Collection. They're pushing
collection.
for the figures that should be there.
But I think we're going to get those ones guaranteed. I'm more of the mind, let's push for something that could or could not happen. I could see Admiral Akbar, for this kind of line not being the first choice, so I'm going to fight for him, as much as I can. Other ones that I'm pushing
Asajj is on there. I would like to see
Asajj
her.
Ventress would be really cool. I would really like to see Sabine Wren from Rebels, because I was just so disappointed in the way that the Rebels figure was nice for being those little 5-point of articulation cheap figures that Hasbro wants to do right now, but I could see her as as great as any of the bounty hunters.
What about Ahsoka? That would be good too.
Ahsoka is coming out. We have
with the Black Series.
Yeah, we have seen the sculpt for Ahsoka at Celebration. It was
the Clone Wars one, or are we looking at the older one from Rebels?
Looks more like the Rebels version to me. But it's really cool. Just the other day, though, we did get a leaked list of possibly the next 4 Star Wars figures for Black Series, because other than the 6 figures that we know from The Force Awakens that are coming out, we don't know anything coming for the future for Star Wars Black. And the rumored ones coming out are, or there's been some evidence that the next 4 are Jango Fett, General Grievous.
That'd be a big one.
Yeah, Captain Rex, and I'm trying to think who the other one is. I'm pulling
Will
up.
it be Rex with kind of a removable head with a helmet?
I hope so. I was disappointed that Commander Cody did not have one. Captain Rex has been talked about for a while, but he would be joining me with Jango Fett, General Grievous, and then we've heard about him for a while, but C-3PO from Episode 5. So he would definitely have the silver
Jango
logo.
Fett would be pretty easy. Doing a repaint almost of the Boba Fett figure. I mean, I know it's different.
Oh, Brad, no, you couldn't.
Nah, that's what.
No, you couldn't. No, you
I'm
couldn't.
just saying. I know how Hasbro thinks with a lot of these things. I mean, I could really see them doing
I will say though, they have. I have problems with the Star Wars The Black Series, but as Brad's looking, I do have a shelf of them.
And we also had problems when we saw the Bespin Luke Skywalker that looked like John Kerry in Vietnam.
Yeah, that was not a great figure. But they do really good with armored characters. They do good with aliens.
Yeah.
One of the things is they do put the money into new sculpts. There's not reuse going on in that line.
And I know repaints are like blasphemy.
Other than where you would expect it. Obviously, I mean, Sand Troopers and Stormtroopers share some parts. But, Commander Cody just came out. Just reviewed him the other day. He's a Phase 2 trooper, not Phase 1. So he has tons of new parts on him. So I would imagine that Jango Fett would be, pretty accurate as well, with minimal, if any, reuse.
All right, Jerry, how do you feel, before we've seen anything announced here, as far as really a rollout of the Force Awakens figures, which is going to change everything. And there's nothing like, for Star Wars collectors, a rollout of the toys is almost as big as the film.
Yeah.
A lot of people stay out of work, they call it Wookiee Hookie, right, Jerry?
Wookiee Hookie.
And we could probably do an episode of Jerry's escapades on Star Wars release nights.
I've been making Wookiee Hookie an epidemic since 1999. So
yeah, that's a whole podcast discussion in and of itself. But Jerry, kind of talk about some of the problems you've had with Hasbro's handling of Star Wars figures before The Force Awakens, and do you think that will carry over into The Force Awakens?
How much time do you have? No. Hasbro...
We got a little bit.
Hasbro had... but when they were doing the Vintage Collection, and that's the line they did a couple years ago on vintage-style cards, covered all the movies, expanded universe... I'm not sure that we've ever seen better 1/18th scale figures. The only thing that ever would rival that in that scale was G.I. Joe, The Pursuit of Cobra figures, and the 30th Anniversary Collection.
They put the power of the Force to shame. Which
they were well articulated. They were beautiful. They had great character selection. We were seeing characters that we'd never seen or that hadn't been updated in years. And then they jumped to the 6-inch scale, which was, really cool, but was also kind of divisive to people who'd spend years collecting Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars created, basically, that 3 3/4 inch, scale. So, with the Black Series, which is divided. I mean, the Black Series is both the 6-inch figures, but it's also the 1/18th scale figures as well.
But this is advertised as... To me, when I first saw the Black Series, I thought like upscale, retail-based Star Wars figures. But really, there hasn't been, since Black Series came out, there hasn't been, besides the Rebels stuff, which has been hard to find.
And the Rebels is not Black Series.
No, I'm saying there, besides the Rebels stuff, there's not 3 3/4 stuff out there, is there?
Well, they call it the Mission Series, and they are...
That's their mission to get it in stores in Manhattan?
That's the joke. They're 5-point of articulation figures, but this has been the problem. Distribution has been really bad. Rebels hit last year, and people didn't start even seeing these figures in stores, and e-tailers weren't getting them. Some at the very end of 2014, some not until a couple months into 2015. I still would not bet that I could go out and find Rebels figures. on an average toy run. And for a cartoon that's on the shell, that's on the air right now, second season just starting, it's had good reviews, you got a movie coming up, that's been really disastrous. Hasbro has just not had a lot of communication with fans. A lot of Star Wars fans have been really turned off by what's been offered. And so...
And there's not a shortage of Star Wars stuff out there. I mean, people can turn to other Star Wars collectibles. They may not be the 6-inch or 3 3/4 scale figures, but...
So, there's been two things lately that have kind of... I'm not going to say how much they've, really impressed fans or warmed fans up, but the fact that they're doing a 6-inch Fans' Choice poll is nice, because we haven't seen anything like that for a while. The other thing is Hasbro looks like they're trying to start something, maybe a better communication thing that's called Hasbro Pulse, where you sign up and you pick the Hasbro brands that you want information from. If you want information about Star Wars...
So you'll get nothing in your inbox if you subscribe to the Star Wars
If you
Pulse.
subscribe to Star Wars or G.I. Joe, you're not going to get anything.
A welcome email, that's it.
Yeah. But they've got Star Wars, they've got G.I. Joe, My Little Pony, Marvel, Nerf, and there might have been one other thing too that I maybe didn't check. Can't remember that much. But going into The Force Awakens, I mean, we're just, we're seeing product lists starting to leak, but there's been, some of them have been like, they've been coded, or they've been rumors, so we're just not sure what to expect.
And one thing I really wonder, and when we first got news of the Star Wars movies, like the new Star Wars movies coming out, I thought and it was around the time that they were starting to do the Black Series, and I think I asked you, I said, do you think the Force Awakens figures will be available in the Black Series line? Now it looks like they're going to be, right? But do you think one will take precedent over another, or do you think they'll get equal treatment as far as 3 3/4 Force Awakens and Black Series Force Awakens figures?
You know what the biggest fear is? The biggest fear has been that Hasbro is going to do 2.5-inch figures like they did with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh my God.
And Avengers Age of Ultron. I don't think that's going to happen at this point. But I imagine we're probably going to see a lot of role-playing items targeted at kids. We're probably going to see a lot of the 5-point of articulation figures that collectors are not, that into. I'm really not. I'm thinking if we see a 1/18 scale collector's line, it's going to be very limited, or it's going to be a retailer exclusive. Somebody like Toys R Us.
Or Target.
I think Toys R Us might take it on, because they have a pretty...
Their selection's good. You go in there, they got a whole Star Wars aisle right now.
They have a whole aisle, but once again, the Toys R Us closest to me, I have never seen a single figure there beyond the Episode 3 Obi-Wan Kenobi, Luke Skywalker and Bespin Gear, and Han
Slave
Solo.
Leia?
Well, she was the second
Okay.
set from that year. They've never restocked. It's been
they had this big display there, and
I've hardly ever seen the Rebels figures there either, and so they'll get a couple in. Hasbro has had problems with distribution. They've had problems with getting figures in the stores.
Why with Star Wars, though? Because Marvel Legends has been... That's Hasbro, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Marvel,
it's been readily available.
Yeah, Marvel has really improved, and the answer really is I just do not know. I don't know if Hasbro really felt that they had to take time and kind of reassess what they were doing, because they've had a lot of failed things. Star Wars Command. Those are the plastic... kind of like plastic army men. They're not painted, but once again, you're not buying a big bucket of them for cheap like army men. And I love plastic army men, but you were buying them carded, and they were, more expensive than you would expect for that. That seems to have failed. We saw things like the little squishy figures, the little plastic chibi style figures that came in little pods, and you fought with them. Hasbro's really tried to take the Star Wars license into all these other very faddish areas instead of sticking with the 1/18 scale figures, which have always been fairly
That's
difficult.
their bread and butter. It was for so many years. Like, the licensing of those actors was what made George Lucas the billionaire that he was, right? Yeah. More so than the movies itself. Like, they defined licensed action figures.
That was his claim, that the whole money was built, that his empire was built on action figures. So.
And I cannot believe, especially with a new movie coming out, that it's being mishandled like this. And I think maybe what's going on, this is speculation, is Marvel's the hottest thing in the world right now. And I think when Star Wars The Force Awakens comes out, kind of very similar to the way Jurassic World was just kind of caught everybody by, not surprised, but I think it surprised people how big it actually was. I think Star Wars would be Jurassic World times 5, and they're not going to be prepared this holiday season to meet the demand of collectors and parents.
We will see. You mentioned Marvel Legends. Marvel Legends has had great distribution. We've seen 6 or 7 different series of Marvel Legend figures out this year already. There's been
just last night, though, a guy from GeeksWithWives.com, Chris Perry, his wife brought him home the Wasp.
Yeah.
And Ant-Man.
The Ant-Man series is out. There's been two basic series. There's been an Avengers series. 2 series of the Spider-Man classics. But if you look at those smaller scale Marvel figures, we either get the really cheap, stuff. We're not seeing the 1/18th scale Marvel that Marvel had been doing for the past few years. Those are gone. Same with Jurassic World. It's the very cheap impulse.
And that's Hasbro too, right?
That's Hasbro as well. It's the very cheap, I would call them impulse buy items, not the collections. And I know we often get, we say stuff that's definitely, a little bit overreactive. But in all honesty, the Jurassic Park figures from when we were kids, they are better than what Hasbro has released for Jurassic World. For a movie that broke box office records, and the figures, if you see any of them, are just abysmal. They're really bad. The only Jurassic Park thing I bought that was worth it was the their children's brand, which is like for really little kids. And we bought my daughter a raptor that screams, and it's pretty sweet, and she can say dinosaur now, and we know what that word is. But Hasbro has mismanaged a lot of their properties over the past couple years. And we hear the same things from them. We hear rising costs. We hear the market retailers, want different things. We hear that the market's not there anymore. But we're seeing most other companies pumping out some of the best action figures we've ever seen. And we see Hasbro just floundering right now.
I just wish somebody else would get the Star Wars, the retail Star Wars license. But
I'm not sure who I would want that to be at this point for retail.
So for you, somebody who's been a Star Wars collector of the mainstream retail-based figures your whole life, pretty much, like what's your game plan here going into The Force Awakens? I know it's kind of wait and see, but are you to the point of, I may just pick up 1 or 2 upscale collectibles of The Force Awakens or something else?
I'm probably, for me, the upscale would be, I'm going to pick up the 6-inch figures that I'm interested in, because I know they'll be quality. Hasbro has done a nice job with the figures in the 6-inch series for the most part. I don't think their human likenesses are usually very good. The human figures have floundered a bit. And
like we talked about the John Kerry Luke.
Luke.
Look at Bosk over here on your shelf. He's good.
Bosk is pretty good. And the troopers have all been, really impressive. I'm going to pay attention to those, and we'll see what the 1/18th scale brings. If it's the 5 point of articulation figures, I'm not going to be interested.
It's sad because for so many people, the 3 3/4 scale figures, that is Star Wars.
That is Star Wars. If they're great and equal quality to what we've seen in the few Black Series releases or the vintage collection, then I will jump in and pick them up. But for 5 point of articulation figures, if I'm buying those, I want them to look retro. I will buy old Star Wars figures, and I have a lot of them. Yeah. Or I will buy Funko's Reaction or Biff Bang Pals offerings or, something like that. I don't want a modern sculpted figure to be intentionally limited in any way. That just doesn't seem like it. It just doesn't appeal to me at all.
So, it sounds like from listening to you, somebody that really knows Hasbro pretty well here in their tendencies, 3 3/4 not looking so hopeful. So are you pretty hopeful for 6-inch or just as wary?
I mean, the 6-inch I think are going to be nice what we get, but I'm going to be really curious because once again, think about when a new Star Wars movie comes out, how many characters there are and how many characters they seem to be able to release in the 6-inch line. It's pretty limited. So I'm a little concerned about what we're going to see, but I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping San Diego, shows us that Hasbro's like, hey, we've divided things up. There's a 6-inch line. There's a, 1/18 scale, collector line and a 1/18 scale, kitty line. But we'll see what happens. But I'm really worried. I'm really worried that Rebels is going to get just swept under the bus.
It's been a success on TV. Rebels is popular among kids and adults.
But, Hasbro, the way that they've treated it, I just think we might not see much more from Rebels at this point.
Okay, I'm going to close out this conversation. I'm going to give a piece of advice to Star Wars fans who, with The Force Awakens, are probably, it's going to be huge, right? Are just going to be venturing into collecting. I'm going to offer a piece of advice. I want you to think for a second, when Force Awakens hits and you're one of these people, not like us, who's been into collecting these figures for most of their life, but you're one of these people who gets caught up in the fandom for the first time, and you want to go out there and get your first Star Wars collectible, what advice would you give them? My advice is be very specific with what you collect. Because with Star Wars, there's so many characters. For me, it's always been, I like Anakin. I like Darth Vader. I actually like Hayden Christensen's Anakin. It's grown on me over the years. I especially like that Clone Wars Anakin. I like the bounty hunters. So if I'm going to pick up something, it's going to probably be Sith-based or bounty hunter-based. I'm not going to try to go out and get every Stormtrooper or every Luke Skywalker because it's just too much. And if you try to collect it all, you're probably collecting something else as well. You're going to miss out on some stuff, and it's going to, some of you are out there very rich, like our editor-in-chief, Casey Walsh, but if you're not one of those people, you really got a limit. So just collect the stuff you love with Star Wars. What would be your piece of advice, Jerry?
I would say, pick a scale and stick with it for Star Wars collecting. It's tough to bounce back and forth, between two scales, and Star Wars collecting in these days, I really do just pick up the figures I like or the characters I like, and it's definitely not where I feel like I'm doing universe building at this point. But I would recommend pick a scale and stick with it.
If you're gonna do the 12-inch, do that if you can afford it. If you're gonna do
6-inch, go with it, because if you try.
If you're doing
it's
3 3/4,
hard you're not going to be able to mix and match.
I'm sorry, if you're doing 3 3/4, you're screwed. So. It looks like, in a sense. But Jerry, I think that's going to wrap up our featured Star Wars discussion this week. We're always going to end this show by asking, what are you pre-ordered? Jerry, what do you have? I know Jerry has like a million things pre-ordered, but what do you have pre-ordered, or what maybe will you pre-order between now and next month's episode that would be cool for the fans to know about?
What do I have pre-ordered? Pulling up my pre-order list right now. Brad, what do you have pre-ordered?
I have the Hawkeye pre-ordered from Avengers Age of Ultron, and I just got the Hot Toys Hawkeye. Coming to me from SideshowToy.com. I actually was able, one good thing about Sideshow, they do rewards points. So I had some rewards saved up, and I got this for half price. And I'm paying it on FlexPay still, so I'm only paying like 30-something bucks, like 3 payments of 30-something bucks for a Hot Toy, which is a steal. Yeah. And so they pushed up the shipping on that. It's going to be shipping by the end of this year. Okay. I just got that notification. So Hawkeye, He's at the bottom of my top 10 favorite superheroes, but he is in my top 10. Love Jeremy Renner. I love that outfit.
Yeah,
how they
that
did
was a nice outfit.
the long outfit there for him, and looking forward to getting that toward the end of this year. What about you, Jared?
Well, I have the premium format Batgirl from Sideshow that
should be here soon.
Should
right?
be here soon. I just got a thing the other day that they're supposed to do the last flex pay charge on July 15th. So I'm hoping that means they said they were moving the date because it's going to be the ship date. So that should be good. Hopefully I'll have that before the next podcast that we record. A couple other things, though, this month that I'm looking forward to. This is when the Masters of the Universe Classics, this is when the 2000 X subscription starts. Characters based on the 2000 cartoon. And so we'll start seeing some of those will be coming out this month. I have the Jaws reaction figure.
I have that pre-ordered too because my wife. I have all those pre-ordered. My wife's obsessed with Jaws.
I didn't pre-order all the people yet, but
I did Hooper.
I did pre-order Bruce the Shark.
Okay,
so we'll see to go with my other reaction monsters and things.
If you've never seen Drunken Hooper on YouTube, do yourself a favor. Somebody recut Jaws to make it look like Hooper had a good time out on that boat, and you will die laughing.
There actually really was, though, a part where he was trying to film a scene and he didn't get it, and he asked Spielberg could he have a drink, and I guess he got too drunk that he couldn't film it, and they had to film it at a later date. Other thing I pre-ordered is I have the DC Bashaljo Zatanna is coming out, and I have a lot of those the DC figures. That line just kind of went like about most of last year and the year before that, 2013, 2014, they had like no releases at all. They went like releasing like 2 or 3 characters in succession to having nothing come out really except like one Comic-Con exclusive. And now they've released in short periods Starfire, Batwoman, and then they have Zatanna coming out, followed by Black Canary and Raven later this year, early next year. But Zatanna should be here in July, and I'm looking forward to her.
All right, so that's going to wrap up the very first episode of Geeks with Wives Radio presents the Collection Agency. This podcast will come to you usually at the end of the month, so this is our June episode. We may come at you a little earlier in July, since probably right after San Diego Comic-Con. I'm going to be getting back in the town. I'll actually be at the beach, but
I thought you were going to tell me you were going to San Diego Comic-Con.
We have 2 reporters, Casey Walsh, our editor-in-chief, and Chris Perry will be on the ground with press passes for Geeks with Wives at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
So I know they're going to do a great job for us. But in the meantime, Jerry, where can people find more of you on the internet?
actionfigurebarbecue.com. That's BARBECUE.com. Of course, I like to pay attention to the different Google search words that people use to find my site. And somebody found my site by typing barbecue laying in a van. I'm not sure what they were looking for, but they got to me that way, which is kind of weird. I don't know that I've ever laid in a van.
That is kind of weird.
Yeah, so, but just use the direct link. Don't type anything weird. actionfigurebarbecue.com.
Okay, as for me, you can find me on Twitter at TheRealBradBell, REEL Brad Bell. You can find all my work on GeeksWithWives.com every Thursday night on the Geeks with Wives and Caves comic book podcast. If you have any questions or topics in collecting that you would like us to cover, reach out to me via email, brad.bell@geekswithwives.com, brad.bell@geekswithwives.com. I think our discussion next month will be San Diego Comic-Con 2015 and all the big reveals there. And until next time, we are out.
Hey everybody, this is your old friend Barbecue17 here from actionfigurebarbecue.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast and listening to me talk about toys for a long time. I actually have a special bonus. If you are listening to this, you could be eligible to win Barbecue's prize package. Every month we do the podcast, I'm going to send out a prize package to a reader who emails me at barbecue17, that's BARBECUE17, at actionfigurebarbecue.com, and answers a question. And this month's question is, which 1980s toy line do you feel is the most in need of a revival? Email me with your thoughts on that, the line that you really want to see at actionfigurebarbecue.com. That's barbecue17 at actionfigurebarbecue.com, and you could win my prize package if you're the first.
Now, Jerry has a Batgirl addiction. Right, Jerry?
I'm a Batgirl collector,
a
connoisseur, if you will.
The name of his Wi-Fi password is BabsGordon69. Just to give you an idea
password
of him.